That fresh produce stand there, that's a beauty.
What do you listen to?
My favorite murder podcast.
Taggart and Torrance podcast.
The produce stand.
Fucking sexy.
It's Thirsty Thursday, and that means we are once again hanging out at the produce stand. Podcast paying tribute to everything in the universe. Now, I know what you're thinking. There are many other Letterkenny podcasts out there, but this one is about to interview a Disney descendant. I'm Al, your host, and joining me in the room as always is lovely Tanya. And online, we have Squirrely Matt, and unfortunately, Victor can't join us tonight because it is his anniversary, so we'll give him a pass. But joining us this week, he is a Canadian actor and producer known for Mr. Hockey, The Gordie Howe Story, The Mighty Ducks, Game Changers, Descendants 2, but we all know and love him as Reilly, one half of the hockey duo known as Reilly and Jonesy. Please join me in making some noise for Dylan Playfair.
Wondrous.
Oh my gourd.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Wait.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I regret nothing.
Welcome to the produce stand, Dylan.
Oh, man, it's great to be here, fellas. This is, what an intro. What an opener.
We try. Actually, and that's our OG opener. We've moved on now to a more Shoresy based opener, but I like bringing these out whenever I, interview the old cast like you, and we had Kate Trev on recently and stuff. So it's always fun to bring that one out.
Right on, yeah. No, that was fun. Nostalgic.
Now, where are you joining us from tonight?
I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Very cool. And looks like a studio or something behind you there.
Yeah, the fine folks over here at Shoreline Studios. So my wife and I have a production company called Meaty Button, which does commercials and documentaries and music videos. We've also got a film and television company called Crystal Mountain Films, and we share a space with Shoreline in Vancouver, and they've got a sound stage, I guess you'd call it, for musicians to come in here and record. So it's the best audio in the building.
Yeah, nice. Very nice.
You can hear a fucking mouse fart.
Very cool. Now, you're out in Vancouver. Is that where you are from originally?
Originally from northern British Columbia, from a small town called Fort St. James, about 12 hours north of Vancouver. But I bounced around a lot as a kid. So my dad's a pro hockey coach. And
right.
When I was born, he was coaching in, where the heck was he? Dayton, Ohio. And then we moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, then St. John, New Brunswick, Calgary, Alberta. Wow. From there, I went off to play junior in Merritt, and they bounced around the states. They're in Arizona, then Edmonton, and Abbotsford. Lots of moving around, chasing the dream, you know?
Yeah, talk about, there's Army rats, and then there's hockey rats, I guess. Where would you say you spent, like, your formative years, or like your high school?
Calgary. Yeah, Calgary is for sure.
All right.
Yeah,
cool.
that's second home. We moved halfway through the year in grade 5, and I was there until the 11th grade when I went off to play junior.
Yeah, fair enough.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned your dad. But your brothers are all hockey players, and your dad is Jim Playfair, who's former NHL coach of the Calgary Flames, correct? And assistant coach in Arizona and in Edmonton. And I swore that if I ever had you on, I'd play you this video because I need to get your reaction, if you don't mind, to this video.
By all means.
This is, and folks who are listening, I'll try to be descriptive of it because it's pretty hilarious. But this is Reilly's father, Jim Playfair. Oh, let me get the sound going here.
Dave Sheldon with the call.
I mean, blue ice area, Dave. He's up at that. Now Jim Playfair is getting a penalty, and Jim Playfair
banging the stick
over the ice. He is lost
on the board.
Jim
He's angry.
Playfair is throwing the stick on the ice. Unbelievable!
And now he threw his jacket off.
Jim Playfair,
Hulk Hogan style.
Going nuts on Jamie Koharski right now, and the fans are with them.
And he grabbed another stick.
And he's going to break a second stick. He's on the top of the bench, and Jim Playfair once again throws another stick out in the ice.
He is angry about something.
Jim Playfair has absolutely lost it with this referee.
Yeah. He
handled that well.
Yeah, and I quote, he said, I disagreed with the referee's call. was the quote.
So that was back in 2010 in Abbotsford. So my question here is not what started it or why it started. I'm curious, what does dinner, what's the conversation around dinner table like that night?
I wasn't living at home at that time. I was playing in Merritt, but I did get a call from him saying, "Hey, you might want to turn on TSN and get ahead of this thing." So I turned it on, and honest to God, it was playing as I clicked the television on. And I asked him, I said, "What happened? Like, Jesus, you're pissed." He goes, "I disagreed with the referee's call and wanted to express my my frustration." But no, it was funny actually. That clips ended up paying out dividends for me. I mean, when I first moved to Vancouver and met with my agent, I didn't have any credits or anything. I was in acting school, and she was representing some pretty big names at the time. And about 3/4 of the way through our initial meeting, she asked, "Are you committed to this? Like, I don't need some, half in, half out pretty boy hockey player who thinks he wants to be an actor. Like, I want someone who's gonna, give it their all." And I was like, "Can I show you something?" And I pulled up that video, and I said, "This is the guy who raised me. This is my dad." So
I love it.
What a play!
Whatever curveball you think you can throw my way that I can't handle, trust me when I say I can handle it. Like,
That's making lemonade there. Well done.
Fantastic.
That's a bold move, my friend. But wow, did it ever pay off?
Yeah, it paid off. She signed me, and it worked out. But no, he's a passionate guy, man. He's really passionate and loves the game. I don't know. He looks back, I think he shakes his head. He goes, "Jesus Christ, what was I thinking?" But honestly, it's become, it's a bit of a badge of honor now. So
sure,
wear it with pride, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You knew what clip he was pulling up even before he did it, didn't you?
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, here, fuck, we go again."
Yeah, here we go.
So now to say that you're a hockey family is an understatement, because obviously, you had your dad coaching all over in the NHL. You played hockey. Your brother Jackson played and is now a coach at UBC. Is he still coaching at UBC?
He was at UBC. He's now at Rink Academy in Kelowna.
And your brother Austin is did play, but now is a fashion designer. So that's an interesting career change. Which brings me to your career change. Like, at what point did you decide, oh, maybe hockey isn't for me, or I like this acting thing, or I want to try this acting thing?
I always knew that I wanted to act. It was something that was always, in my mind. It was something that I loved storytelling. When I was in high school, I was always in the, in drama class, doing school plays and things like that. So my plan A was the NHL. My plan B was a professional actor. I don't know if it was delusional or if it was having watched my dad go through the process of getting there. And I just kind of figured, you gotta have a big dream and then just take a single step every single day towards it. And I think the day that it became really clear was, I was 19. I just finished a season with the Merritt Centennials, and my stats looked like a defenseman, and I was a left winger. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I thought, if I take all the work that I put into getting to this place in my hockey career, because I was never really a naturally talented, skilled player. I was always, the hardest worker. I tried to be the hardest worker on the ice. I always ended up winning the, training camp, like the fitness awards. Like, I was really, really keen on whatever I can control. I'm going to do my absolute best to give myself a fighting shot. And I ended up playing, in the BCHL, which at the time and still is one of the top junior leagues in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I kind of figured, if I can take some of this natural talent, because I got a sense from, telling stories in the dressing room and having done plays and getting support from just friends as far as like, hey, you're a funny guy. This is something that you're naturally gifted at. You can make people laugh. It's something that, I felt I had a bit more natural talent in that department than in the hockey department. So I figured if I can combine the work ethic from the hockey with this thing that I believe to be, I think I'm good at it, imagine how far I can go. So I packed up my bags and I had a tough conversation with my coach, and we both agreed that it was a good decision. I honestly thought, there's a kid in training camp who wants this more than I do at this time. And that's not fair to the team or to him. So, I felt it was a good time to pass the torch, and I had a good conversation with my dad, and his words were, don't ever play the game past the point where you love it, because you'll resent it. And resenting this game, which has given our family so much, would be a tragedy. So make sure you leave at the point where you still want to go play beer league, where you still want to go watch games. And coming from him, he's seen so many careers evolve and shift out of hockey. I mean, he's been coaching since I was born. So that was 30 years of experience of seeing guys go through what I was going through. So he was really, really supportive. And I sort of had this expectation that if an actor, I mean, I didn't know at the time, but I assumed, well, actors can make as much as doctors, and it takes a doctor 7 years to get to that place. I didn't think I was going to get a job for 7 years. I was fully prepared to wait tables for 7 years. That was sort of my number. And I thought, if I don't get a sniff in that chunk of time, then I'll find a new path. And I think that lent itself to getting traction fairly quickly, because I was, working on what I could control. I was going to class. I was asking questions. I was really keen to take advantage of any opportunity that presented itself in film or television or, theater productions. And, I got fortunate. I met some people who were doing some really cool stuff and teamed up with them, Jared being one of them, who I met through a beer league hockey team. And, it's been a ride, and I'm very happy with the decision.
Yes. I think you made the right call.
I think so.
What was your kind of first role? Would it have been Grave Encounters 2? Can you?
That's right. Yeah. So Grave Encounters 2 was interesting, because I was going to acting school at the time, and part of, normally when you're in acting class, they ask you to, or a school setting, not audition, so you can go through the full process and come out with your diploma. And I had an agent already. I'd signed with an agent, and then I went to her and said, hey, I want to be working on this every single day. I feel like I need, to turn, like, I want this to be my job. So I went to Vancouver Acting School with the one condition that I could still audition. And I ended up auditioning for this music video and booked the music video. And the producers of that were doing Grave Encounters 2. So then I got an audition for that. And I actually worked on it with one of my teachers, and ended up booking it. So I got to leave school after 3 months of a 6-month program, and then came back and was about 2 months in after Grave Encounters. Same thing happened. I booked Mr. Hockey, and I kind of looked around. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go keep doing this.
So Mr. Hockey was your second booked gig.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because so in 2012, you play the son of Gordie Howe. And who played your brother?
Andrew Herr.
Unbelievable. So we had an early view of what Reilly and Jonesy were like, because you guys played brothers in the Gordie Howe story.
That's right. Which is actually, that was one of the sort of factors that played into Jared writing us into his Letterkenny problem skits, because he was doing the stuff with the Hicks and and I think he had one with the Skids, and we came in for the 6th episode of the YouTube series after having done Mr. Hockey, where Jared actually had us over for a red carpet viewing party, and it was pretty special. He took us under his wing in a big way, and we were having a really good time watching that, and it's crazy what it turned into.
Was that the first time you met Andrew?
No, Andrew and I were actually roommates. So
that explains a lot then.
I know, right?
Jesus, the story just gets thicker and thicker.
It's wild, man. So I came up to Vancouver, and I had a friend who was going to UBC, and this was before I'd even left hockey. It was the winter that I was still playing, and I came out for Christmas break to basically party with him, and ended up meeting Andrew and a couple other buddies that all lived in the same dorm. And so we became pals. And then when I actually moved out to Vancouver permanently, Andrew was looking for a place to stay, and the house that I was living in had a room open up. So he had moved in, and actually he was in France with his family because we both auditioned for it.
Right.
And then he didn't, it was 3 weeks after we auditioned. So he kind of assumed well, this isn't going to happen. So he went to France with his family. His agent couldn't get a hold of him when they booked him, so they called me like, "Hey, you need to you need to get a hold of Andrew. He's playing your brother. He's got to be in Winnipeg in 2 weeks.
Bring your boy. We got to get him here.
That's crazy.
So I messaged him on Facebook, and then he flew back early, and we went and shot Mr. Hockey.
So that's Mr. Hockey, the Gordie Howe story that came out in 2013. I feel like I saw it a while ago. It's been 11 years since it came out, but I think I remember. But that was before I knew who you guys were, before Letterkenny and stuff, right? So now, when I heard that both you and Andrew were brothers, I'm like, it was meant to be. And I guess so. Jared saw that and said, these guys need to be the hockey dum-dums on Letterkenny.
Absolutely. And we were also, I mean, it's wild, this story. So there was 6 of us playing on a beer league team called the Trappers out at UBC. So there was, Jared was our team captain. I was on the team. Actually, McD, Ryan from Shoresy, he was on the team.
McDonald.
Ryan McDonald, exactly.
Right.
McD. Who else? Nate Dales was on that team. Jamie Lapointe, who played the Ginger. Who else? Tyler Johnson.
Come on.
Yeah. So most of that team, actually, Letterkenny was part of the reason why the team folded, because we all got too cool. We all got a team, so we couldn't play in the regular season anymore.
That's too much. Well, before we get to Letterkenny, I've got a few more of these credits that I want to ask you about. First of all,
you bet.
What does your dad and your brothers say when you rub it in their face that you made it into the Hockey Hall of Fame before they did?
They're proud. They're pumped for me. That was that was really cool. We shot that. Geez, that might have come before Mr. Hockey. What's the year on that credit?
2012, and I think Mr. Hockey was 2013. So yeah, it's just before.
I think it was. I might have gotten them mixed up.
So let me explain this for those who wouldn't know. There's a movie called Stanley's Game 7 3D, and it's a 3D immersive movie. And we saw when we were at the Hockey Hall of Fame, because when I watched the trailer, I'm like, I remember watching that. And it's a 3D hockey movie where you got Dylan and a bunch of other hockey players, but then they turn into Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. They turn into the legends, and it's a really cool video. And I remember watching it like at the Hockey Hall of Fame. So when I saw it, I'm like, yeah. And then I started laughing because you're in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I don't know if your dad's in there yet, but
I think I might be the only Playfair that's in the Hall of Fame. And actually, cool thing about that short was usually, so there's 2 Stanley Cups. There's the actual Stanley Cup they present the players, and then there's a replica that they use for certain events, especially when a team wins the cup, each player gets a chunk of time with the cup. So we filmed that in Penticton, and I think it was Duncan Keith had won. I can't remember who won it that year, but whoever had won it was living in Penticton and gave the go-ahead to actually lend the cup for the day.
For his one day with the cup?
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
So we had the actual Stanley Cup out there, and Phil, the keeper of the cup, he was on the ice with us. It was a pretty wild experience. And I'd actually played junior B in Penticton, so to be able to have a bunch of friends out that were still living there and come watch the film getting made, it was wild, man. Too, like filming in 3D. Yeah. It was quite an experience. And some of those slow motion shots, they had the camera on this rig where it had this like electronic wire that would pull the camera super duper fast, and they shot in ultra slow motion. There's a scene where I get blown up, and it didn't happen one time. It was I probably got smacked my head down about 15 times, and that was at the time it was non-union, and I was like, for the Hall of Fame, man, let's do it. I'm game. Anything goes. It wasn't until a couple of years later that I heard the term stuntman. I'm like, interesting.
Those exist. Okay.
Okay, but
I could have had one of those.
I'm like, man, that was a hell of a shoot. Like, I'm rattled. But no, it was fun, and truth be told, I probably wouldn't have wanted him to do it anyway. I'll do my own stunts for the Hall of Fame. Let's get going.
Amazing. Well, yeah. I got a quick question. So, I mean, looking, and I'm sure Al's got more on your IMDb there, but a lot of hockey stuff, right? Were you seeking that, or was it just a natural fit with what you brought to the screen?
You know what? I was not seeking it, but here's what I figured: if I'm going to get an opportunity, And if a special skill like playing hockey opens doors up for me, people talk about getting pigeonholed and being afraid of being typecast and things like that. And I always approached it with an attitude of they're all different characters that happen to play hockey. And I think every one of them has a different energy and a different persona. And hockey is a part of their identity. I mean, for sure in Letterkenny, like that is their identity. They are the hockey players. But when it comes to Stanley's Game 7, that was one of my very first things. And because I played hockey, that really opened the door. And then with Mr. Hockey, having come from a hockey family, when I spoke with Andy Makita, I think a big part of that opportunity was knowing what it's like to have a father in the NHL, to, play and grow up in that shadow, and what that pressure looks like for a player who wants to carve their own identity in the game. That was a big part of that movie that came about. Plus I was able to skate, and, it made it look more realistic. And I didn't really want to say no to opportunities at the early, phase of my career. And
Sure.
Even now, it's like, I think people who are afraid of being pigeonholed are not looking at it the right way. Like, if you can bring something unique to a character, I think you should. And it opens a lot of doors, and it's never something that I've been afraid. And if you look at my, my resume, like, it didn't stop me from being a dancing pirate in a Disney musical.
Let's get to that. But first, before we get to that, some assembly required. Now, obviously not my age range, but it's kind of that, sitcom geared towards a teen, preteen audience or whatever. And you were on it for 56 episodes, so that was a pretty big. Was that kind of a big time deal for you?
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, that was my first television show.
Mm-hmm.
Up until that point, I'd only ever done films.
Right.
And I really, really loved it. Like, to me, it sort of brought back a lot of what I was missing from hockey, which is that consistency and the ability to see growth and improvement over a chunk of time. Because, a lot of the cast, it was their first time. For me, it was obviously my first television show, and we did it in front of a live studio audience. So
how was that? Were you nervous about that?
You know what? Honestly, it was because we had 2 days of rehearsal, so we get really, really tight with the scripts, and then the audience was mostly kids, right? They wanted it geared towards the age range that would be watching it. So they were great. They came in there and they were already on your side. They wanted to laugh. They had high energy. They were stoked to be there, and you had feedback on the jokes instantly. So you knew if something was working or not, and you could kind of work on the fly. If something wasn't landing, if the jokes weren't hitting, if the audience wasn't laughing, you could adjust it and get feedback right away. So it was absolutely the best education I could have asked for, because, I was on set every week for 3 years, learning a lot about how films get made, how rehearsal process, how to memorize on the fly, how to deal with changes, how to deal with adversity. We worked with a bunch of different directors, so I was able to, figure out how different people work, and it was a lot of fun. And being a kid show, not to say you put your all into everything you do, but there was a sense of safety in
sure,
you can grow here.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't marquee. This is you can figure out things that work for you, that don't work for you, and I was able to, I think, really improve my chops on that show, and it was a ton of fun too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was a comedy, which you ask what were the kind of things I wanted to do. It was comedies.
Yeah.
And I had done horrors and biopics and, sports dramas up until that point. And I felt comfortable doing it, but I kind of knew when I got that audition, I was like, oh, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I've been looking for. And it was super fun and super silly and very far from the aggressive, line grinder that I was when I played.
Yeah. And as a Canadian, I mean, it was YTV, wasn't it? That is the kids network
absolutely
to be on in Canadian culture, right?
Yeah. The fact that I even know the name means it was probably a big deal, because it wouldn't have been something I was watching at the time, but I do remember the name. So did that open up the door for the possibility of Disney, of Descendants?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
As big as the industry is, it's quite small, so you see a lot of crossover between, YTV, Disney, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. And when I got the opportunity for Descendants, I'd done the audition and ended up meeting with the director, and he was really happy with the read. And we started talking about the dancing aspect. And I was like, look, man, I'm an athlete. I'm comfortable with like a lot of the stuff, but I just want to be upfront and really honest. Like I've never really danced. Like I'm not a professional dancer. And I saw Descendants 1, and it's like they got chops.
Mm-hmm.
And he had watched some assembly, and there was a couple episodes there where Knox is a Zumba instructor, and he's like, I've seen you dance. I know you can dance. And I also know that you're an athlete. And if you're not afraid to look stupid in the beginning, I can teach you how to dance.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to listen to us and follow instructions, which as a hockey player, I'm like, yeah, I'm coachable. Let's do this.
Nice.
So, it was 2 months of dance camp and then 2 months of filming. And we got 2 great flicks out of it. So it worked out pretty good.
When I met you at Fan Expo, I mentioned that my cousin was on that set too. Justin Lopez. He was one of the dancers as well. So, and you guys you know each other.
That's right. Yeah, he's a beauty. Justin's a great guy. Yeah, and we got really, really close. I mean, that's it. It feels like a team. You know, you're all working towards the same goal. It's very, very physically demanding. I told my dad actually after the first like week of dance camp, I'm like, this compared to training camp is like it doesn't hold a candle. Like 8 hours of nonstop dancing, and you think about it, like the moves, like it was challenging, man. I think I lost like 15 pounds. Like it was crazy. And like they had on set, like they had a whole protein shake set up. It wasn't like food at lunch. It was food the whole time because you're burning so many. And it was 8-hour days of dancing the whole time. Wow. So it's like you're going to get in good shape.
Yeah. Did that help your hockey game then?
Oh man, I don't know. It was on par because it's like it's too like however long the song is, that's how long you're going for, right? And sometimes you're stopping and you're going back to ones, and it's it was very physically demanding, but really rewarding.
Those are 2.5 minute shifts as opposed to your quick
exactly
40-minute shifts, or 40-second shifts. Sorry,
and no cruising the blue line too. No sitting back with your stick on your hips.
Amazing.
And be honest, you've got the dance bug now, don't you? Like you and wifey go out on the regular and hit the clubs, don't you?
Yeah, I got those moves like Jagger now, bro.
All right, I know. We need.
Those are the moves you want.
We need to get to the Letterkenny stuff, but I'd be remiss. Well, obviously, that must have opened the door then for Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, so Letterkenny opened the door for Mighty Ducks.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so funny. Everything's interconnected, right? Like Arielle Boisvert, who produced, she produced the Descendants films and several other shows here at Bright Light, which is a big production company here.
Yeah.
They were working on the Mighty Ducks. I'm talking to Steve Brill, and I guess my name came up in regards to Letterkenny. So she connected us to just have a beer because I wanted to meet him. I grew up with the Mighty Ducks. He wanted to meet me. He was a fan of Letterkenny. So we met up for a drink. And initially I was going to do a cameo with just one line sort of back of the scene. And as we started talking, the interest grew, and by the end of the night, he goes, "You know what, man? I think you would be a great fit as Coach T. I think if we slick your hair back, and you know, if you can play a bully," I'm like, oh, I could play a bully, buddy. I think I could figure that out. So yeah, we ended up meeting up and chatting about the character, and that's how Mighty Ducks came about.
It's amazing.
Last credit that I want to talk to, just because it's a bit of a departure from what people might know about you, but you're a documentarian as well. And in 2015, you were in a documentary, you shot it, you produced it, I guess, you directed it, you starred in it, called The Drop: Why Young People Don't Vote. I mean, talk about that for a sec.
So as a kid, I was always fascinated. I was a weird hockey player, man. I was kind of a nerd, but I was fascinated by government and world history and World War II. And I remember I watched this like black and white doc when I was like 10 or 12. And there was a line talking about how Hitler came to power and how he was technically voted in, and like how that whole political climate allowed for something like that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, like, that's fascinating. And I was living in Vancouver, and at the time the tax credits were a really, really big topic of the election as to whether or not they were going to be competitive with the East Coast. So it was the first time I really felt that something political was going to have a direct effect on me. So a friend of mine asked me to do an interview they were going to do like a 10-minute mini documentary just trying to improve the voter numbers. And I came and I did the interview, and at the end of it, I said, look, I think this is a much deeper issue than just this 10-minute piece. Like, I'd love to help you expand it. And then we went off on this very, very long, arduous journey of producing this documentary. We flew down to Ferguson, Missouri, where at the time Mike Brown had just been killed, and there was that was at the birth of Hands Up United. We went to Burning Man, which was the intention of that was to show a society that, Burning Man Black Rock City becomes the second largest city in Nevada for the duration of the festival, and they get their own airport code, and they have this system of governance that's very unique to the festival. Mm-hmm. So we kind of wanted to get some information on that. And then we went to Ottawa and interviewed Justin Trudeau and the leader of the NDP and leader of the Conservatives. And my whole thing with that was I wanted to learn a bit more. Like, I was really curious about the process. Yeah. And I always thought it was important to be engaged in the democratic process, just having had that experience as a kid. Because I always thought that dictators just grabbed power. And I didn't realize there was ways that you could do it essentially by the book. So it kind of fascinated me. And I also wanted to do something that made me look smarter than the characters I'd been playing.
So on that note, I have a clip here of somebody who talking about just that. Here it is.
I call him my most loyal soldier. He is a true friend. I just love this kid so much. He's I would say he's like the Canadian Ashton Kutcher. And it's not just because of his talent on screen. It's because he's a bit like Ashton Kutcher, I guess, in that he plays characters that may not be the brightest, right? But in reality, he is so smart. I mean, he's hyper intelligent and insightful and worldly. And I think that stems from his just a general curiosity that he has. He loves people and he loves their stories and he loves telling his own stories. He's got such a big heart. He was raised by really good parents that I'm close with as well. And yeah, actually his mom reminds me of my mom, and his dad's now coaching the Prince George Cougars, the WHL. So DP and I are doing a road trip to follow the team around in January or February for a little while. And I can't wait for that.
So first question is, did you guys do that road trip? Mm-hmm. Did you take a swip?
Sorry. Yeah. Tough spot to take a sip of water.
Yeah, that's my bad.
We did. To answer your question, yes, we did do that road trip, and it was as much fun as you'd imagine it was. We had an absolute blast, and I mean, Kisa, man, I love that guy like a brother. He's awesome. That was really sweet to hear him say that, because I respect him so very much. I mean, truly, if you look back from Jared introduced me to that agent, to Carrie Wheeler, who gave me my start. I actually met Jared through McD. I was working behind the scenes as a production assistant, telling everyone who would listen my game plan. I want to be an actor. I want to get in. Anyone know anybody who can help me? Please let me know. Yeah. Ryan was like, "Hey, buddy, I play on this team. You should come out." So that's how I met Jared. He and I hit it off. He introduced me to Carrie. So he's really been there since the very start. And I mean, to see what he's done, his work ethic is incredible, from slugging it out in Vancouver, standing in line at auditions like the rest of us, to seeing what he's done now. I mean, he's Canada's most respected showrunner. I mean, he's creating content that will live on, and I know he's going to create a lot more, which I'm really, really stoked about. Yeah, it's nice to hear that, and he's on point. We talk about pigeonholing and knowing your lane. I think it comes back to hockey, right? It's like, hey, if you're a third line energy guy, you're not going to serve your team if you're trying to be a first line center, or if you want to play defense, or if you want to stand back in the front of the crease and try and stop pucks. It's like, hey, you're going to help the team by doing the job we need you to do. And I love playing that guy. I love playing the goofy guy. I'm aware of the importance within the ecosystem of the show for those people to stay in that lane, for the audience to expect those characters to behave the way they do. But I also really enjoy, making documentaries about youth voter apathy in the United States and Canada, and going to Burning Man along the way. And, I want to do a lot of different things in my career, and playing funny dumb guys, and playing, mean bad coaches, and, anything else. It's like this career is so wild. You're playing make-believe. So if there's a story that you identify with and you see a role that you think you can bring to life and give justice to, sign me up, man. Let's go. I'll do it all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, now we're
Fantastic answer.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. Now we're at Letterkenny now, obviously, and it's well documented by us and by many others how it started with the shorts on, and now we know how Jared found you and Andrew and stuff, playing on the Gordie Howe movie. So talk about just like 12 seasons of Letterkenny, and try to, maybe describe what that's been, what's that meant for you, your career, and so on.
So we shot the Hockey Players YouTube short, and it went viral pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it had been on the YouTube for like 5 or 6 days, and it was knocking on 1 million views. So Jared called me and Andrew and was like, "Boys, this thing's going viral. This is wild. Like, check it out. It's on Funny or Die. It's getting shared all over the internet. People are ripping it and putting it on their own channel. Like, I think something's happening here." And then New Metric Media reached out, and they were like, "Hey, we think this could be a show." So Jared went to Toronto and met with a couple of different suitors, so to speak, people who were interested in the show. And Bell was just launching Crave. It was their first streaming platform, and they were looking for content.
Yeah.
So it was sort of right place, right time for that. There was talk of auditioning roles for the Hockey Players. And, I say this every time I talk about the show, and it's one of the many reasons why I love Keith so much. He hardlined and said, "No, these are my guys. It's Andrew and Dylan, and we'll find the rest of the roles, but these guys are coming with us." So we got a 6-episode order. Jared took us out for dinner at the Keg and sat us down, and he goes, "Boys, we went to Toronto and tried to get a pilot, but they said no, we're not getting a pilot." And we're like, "Hey man, it's all good. The night's young. We're gonna have a lot of fun anyhow." He goes, "But we are gonna shoot 6 episodes in the spring, so get ready for Sudbury." And we were just fired up.
That's amazing.
So we went out and didn't know what was going to come of it. I mean, we only had that one. The only guarantee was that we'd shoot 6 and see what happens. So the very first scene that Andrew and I shot was the scene in the dressing room when we find out we're trying to figure out who gave the rookie meth. So,
right.
Belsy, Welsy, Burnsy, Deetsy, we're going back and forth trying to figure out who hangs out with the skids that could contact the schmelt. And that was a big chunk of dialogue. And it was sort of right at the beginning of filming the show. So Andrew and I rehearsed, like I've never rehearsed a scene more than Andrew and I rehearsed this scene. We knew each other's lines frontwards and backwards as fast as we could go and as slow as we could go, and every single possible way to run this, because we felt like we weren't just going to perform for the network. We were, Jared had stuck his neck out for us, so we wanted to really make a splash. So we filmed that day. The scene's over, and later that night I get a text, and he goes, "Hey, Jacob and I want to talk to you and Andrew." So I'm like, "Okay." I can't believe I'm fired already. That was fucking quick. Right on. Well, we're in my room. Buzz it. Talk to you soon. And it was Jacob and Kiso, and he goes, "Boys, if you guys keep doing that, we'll be just fine. This show is going to do just fine." Amazing. And it was such a vote of confidence. And then, every season after that, we kept getting renewed, and we kept, getting the momentum, and it kept building and growing. And I think one of the coolest things about it was we had no expectation of that. We did not go into it thinking we're going to make the biggest show in Canada and we're going to be an international success. We really went out there thinking, how fun is it that we get to make a show with legitimately my best friends? Andrew and I literally were roommates. We played on the same hockey team as Keith. His nickname's Cap. He was the captain of our hockey team. Nate got me my first job working at Section 3 as a barback. I mean, Tyler like was a stud. Like you wouldn't know it looking at him, but he'd come out to the Trappers and like zip around and fucking score goals. Like he was a stud hockey player. So we were out there making a TV show with our friends, and it kept getting renewed, and we kept getting to go back. And summer camp was what we started calling it. And then
you're not the first one to say that. Many of you on the that we've interviewed have that exact reference.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the success of the show is the fact that the audience can tell we're having fun. And then you look back and it's like, holy crap, that was like 10 years of our lives, like 12 seasons, and I'm so proud of what we did, and like it happens fast, and you're in it. There were times, like a lot of times, I put both feet down and I went like, look around, this is cool, because I was in a unique position where I'd been on a show like 56 episodes of Some Assembly Required, and then it ended, and several movies leading up, and I had been on quite a few sets, as had Jared, and I think we both kind of knew, something special is happening here, and I wasn't the only one that had been on set before, but we were both, I think, probably around season 3, we're like, this is it, man, this is rad.
Yeah. When we told, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I wanted to ask something. Because you talked about the rehearsal between you and Hersey there. We often lots of people refer when we talk about Reilly and Jonesy, it's always Reilly and Jonesy, right? Like it's like you guys are a single entity. Did it feel like that on set? Like even from the dialogue perspective, was it often like were your lines always divided as one or the other, or did sometimes they just kind of blend in and it didn't matter who said it? It just was a single unit of dialogue. Like how did that evolve or talk to that a bit?
So we would rehearse it to the point where if someone, and it was usually me, would take the other guy's line, Andrew or myself could switch and say the other person's lines. And it got to the, I mean, our name on the set, it wasn't Reilly and Jonesy, it was Hockey. Hockey! They yell for us. And again, it's like we knew our role, man. Like we understood we were a two-headed dragon, you didn't get one without the other.
Yeah.
And honestly, like to this day, I have yet to experience chemistry with another actor like Andrew and I's chemistry. We got to the point where we'd read it once and we'd say the same words at the same time. Like, and it happens a lot in the show. You see, we're like, like we'd look at each other and just do it. And it was like shocking how tight and on time, like we really do share a brain when we get into those characters and start talking and saying lines. It's a wild experience, that chemistry.
On that point, we told our listeners that you were coming on. Of course, they had lots of questions, and we invited them to submit their questions. Mike from New Jersey, on this note, he says, we know Evan and Tyler, who we've had on, worked on their banter to make sure it was crisp and precise, and you talked about how you and Andrew do the same. Your banter with Andrew is different from theirs in principle, but really similar in style and speed. How long did you have to work on it to get it down for the quick filming days Jared and Jacob were used to?
So in the first, I'd say 5 seasons, we would put in like season 1, it was like 8-hour rehearsal each night. We were really, really adamant about making sure that we were super crisp and tight. But it's like a muscle. It's funny because by season 4, we would meet up and we'd start running it. And in 1 or 2 runs, we'd get to where we were, in season 1 after like a whole day of rehearsing. And it truly became like this muscle where like we kind of knew, like we knew our characters, we knew our tone, and you kind of get faster at memorizing as you do it over time. So it's very important on Letterkenny that you show up to set being very, very off book, not just for the pacing of the show, but for the other actors in the scene, because if you flub a line, their lines are flubbed because that like the cadence of the show moves in such a way, like there's no dead air when people are talking. There's very few like wait, respond. So if you don't have that rhythm, you're going to jam up the whole shot. So we'd get to the point where we had the rhythm and we knew what we were doing. But we would definitely never show, like there are some films you can show up and look at the sides in the makeup trailer and figure it out because you're only shooting 2 or 3 pages. Letterkenny, by the end of it, we were shooting 15, 20, 30 pages sometimes in a day.
Crazy.
So you had to, you knew the script when you first got, like he'd send it about a month and a half, 2 months before, so you get familiar with the stories. And then we would rehearse to the point where we knew we weren't going to make ourselves look like idiots on set.
Some of those scenes in the gym between you and Andrew, I don't know how you guys got through it. And I know there's a lot of blooper reels on YouTube showing you guys fucking up the words, but still, like the fact you were able to get through those, I don't know how.
Yeah. Did you ever have like a favorite episode or a favorite bit that you guys did?
One was my most hated. I want to crawl under a bridge and die moment. That became my most favorite. That we should be ripping when they switched the Ritz for roids or roids for Ritz.
Yeah.
Because we were going like that was what like there aren't many. I don't have very many memories of being like man, I'm blowing it. Yeah. And that because we were trying to go so fast, we were trying to be so intense. Because like the joke is they took a ton of Adderall, which is an amphetamine. So they're supposed to be like flying, right? They think they're on steroids, but they're just like ripped on basically meth, you know? And like when we ran it, we're like, we got to go faster. And to the point where our blooper reel was just, we should, because we were getting tongue tied. and when Jared sent us the cut, it went from like my most, oh my God, I can't believe that's how that day went to that is amazing. I'm so stoked that went that way. That was one of my favorites. And then of course the cold open pulling up in the Jeep, that was, you know, because it's such a throwback to the YouTube stuff. And
it set the tone of the whole show, man. That was so fucking good.
And the winner of the best cold open in all of Letterkenny by our poll anyway.
I love it.
Jeff from Maine wants to know what, you know, you mentioned summer camp in Sudbury. I don't know how much experience you had with Sudbury before Letterkenny, but I mean, you spent a lot of time up there. So what are your favorite places to eat in Sudbury?
Ooh, Laughing Buddha. Love the Laughing Buddha. I got to say Pepe Panini, of course. I mean, Jay Burton. We spent a lot of time at Laughing Buddha, a lot of time at Pepe Panini. Where else did we? A lot of the watering holes, SRO, standing room only. I don't know if it's even there anymore.
I don't remember that.
Where the hell else did we? Peddler's Pub.
Peddler's,
yeah. Peddler's was a good time for a pint and some nachos. I think I might have named all the restaurants in Sudbury just now.
Sadly, there are a few that are no longer around, but we had a lot of fun when we visited Sudbury and the sets as well. Mike from New Jersey, yes, as a Letterkenny fan who also has a 7-year-old Descendants fan in the house. Georgia, in case you feel like a shout out. Her name is Georgia. You want to give Georgia a shout out?
Georgia, what's up? Thanks so much for supporting and watching, and don't watch Letterkenny if you're 7. We ride with the tide.
Michael clipped that for his daughter. What are the biggest advantages and disadvantages between working with Jared and the Sudbury crew versus working with the Disney Corporation? That's a big question. Like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Advantages and disadvantages. Oh boy.
Maybe just compare the two.
I can answer. I mean, look, I think shockingly, I don't know if this is going to be in trouble, but the language offset is not as different as you think. Which is hilarious. I was at home. All the Descendants films were filmed in Vancouver, which is nice because I got to sleep in my own bed.
Right.
There was a chunk of time where I was living in LA and then I came back. So I was put up in a hotel for a bit halfway through the show, which was fun because I kind of got to hang out with the cast of Descendants in a bit of a staycation environment. I mean, they had a really clear, super clear vision of what they needed on the Descendants movies. And, they wouldn't move on until they got it, which is most shows are like that. I think Letterkenny was a lot more because there wasn't a character breakdown, right? Like we had done the show, we had done the YouTube stuff, and we were never told like, hey, this is what Reilly's energy is. This is what he's doing.
Right.
That was kind of like what Andrew and I had brought. So a different kind of freedom, I guess. But it was still, both very, very collaborative, both really, really fun. Like I feel I got lucky, man. I haven't had a horror story on set, and I know that's rare. Having spoken to so many other people in the industry, like my experiences have been like shockingly positive. And I'm really, really fortunate to have had that experience. Working with Kenny Ortega on Descendants was incredible. The cast was amazing. We did some really strong work that I'm super proud of, and I can honestly say the exact same thing for Letterkenny. I mean, that crew is amazing. We moved super fast. We got really good stuff. I mean, obviously the show went 12 seasons, and fans are incredibly supportive. I would say like those 3 shows, I loop Mighty Ducks into that. Like those are for sure the 3 shows I've had the most success with. And the common thread amongst all 3 is a really, really solid team. And it goes back to that hockey thing, right? It's like what makes a team successful, what makes a company successful. It's from the top down. If you have a culture of let's buy in the beginning and everyone do their role and everyone work towards a common goal. And I think you just gotta, I think if people speak that in the beginning of like, hey, we're going to do the best that we can collectively, everyone from the director to the makeup artist to the guy making sure that the trash bins are empty, like let's all do the best we can. That seems to be the recipe for success. And I've been very fortunate to be a part of a lot of those mentalities. And
James from Pennsylvania, how does it feel to have fans from 2 very different groups, Disney fans and Letterkenny fans? And when you're interacting with fans of these different groups, do you change your communication and engagement style at all? I kind of witnessed this firsthand at Fan Expo when you spoke to us and then you spoke to my daughter. But let's.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not even so much that I change personality. I recognize it's a different fan, right? Sure. It's a different kind of fan. So Reilly's got a cadence and energy. I think there's an expectation when a Letterkenny fan comes up, and the same can be said for a Descendants fan or some Assembly fan. You 100% can't say "Wheel Snipe Sally Dirty Fucking Dangles" to a 7-year-old. It's not going to sit well with mom and dad. So I like to say read the room. You know, I read the room as best I can and respond accordingly.
All right, last Disney related question. I promise. Adrian from the Hilltop asks, "Who is your favorite Disney princess?"
Favorite Disney princess? I don't know. Maybe Ariel. I mean,
always. It's a tale, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gotta be the. So, I mean, some of the best songs come from Little Mermaid. But then I did play Son of Gaston, so Belle but she wasn't really a princess.
All right, let me help you with this because this is a test. This is a trap.
Okay.
The answer is Ariel because Prince Eric would never smash a mermaid that was too little, not the Prince Edward that Reilly knows.
Yeah, there it is.
You got there by accident.
Yeah.
I got there he keeps notes, man. He must have heard me say something positive about the soundtrack to The Little Mermaid, and that's how that joke got into Letterkenny.
I was going to say, when you saw these Disney references in Letterkenny scripts, you know that they're taking the piss out of you. Like, how did you react? Like, were you like, Jared, you motherfucker? Like,
So the LA, there's a LA cold open, like everything's better. LA. So at the time I was living in LA because
we kind of figured that was a shot at you as well. There's a lot of shots at you in Letterkenny.
Yeah. But that's the dressing room humor. No, I'm happy about it, man. Yeah. It's funny. It's a little art imitating life, and that's okay. That's all right. He actually I guess Keith one time, I think he got misquoted. Somewhere along the way, someone printed that he had said something disparaging about, and I'd be pulling it out of thin air if I remember the quote, but it came up on some Reddit forum about like tripping me for being in Descendants, and it bugged him so much he called me and he was like, "Hey man, have you heard?" I'm like, "What? Have I heard what?" I don't know. He goes, somewhere along the line, someone misquoted me about you being in Descendants and me making fun of you. I just want you to know that I think it's so freaking cool that you're doing that, and I'm proud of you, and that's dope. And like, if you see that, like, that's not what I said. I'm like, oh, buddy, I appreciate that, but I don't even know what you're talking about. So, there's a lot of love. And I mean, look, Keith and I both, like, we started on YTV. He did Monster Warriors.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he knows.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, that we've gone through it, know, and
Adrian's follow-up, and it was another trap here. What's your favorite Robert Munch book? Do you remember?
Robert Munch. What is it?
I forget this one.
I love you forever. I love you for always.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. That or the moccasin goalie. Is that Robert Munch?
Goal.
I don't remember that one.
I don't recall that one. There's one about socks and there's one about the hockey sweater, but I don't remember the mocks. Anyway, no. it's all good.
They're always testing you, man.
Deep. Yeah, I know, right? I can tell.
We're right. I'm sorry, we're pushing you to an hour here. So
no, take your time.
Are you sure?
I cleared the schedule. Yeah, by all means.
Okay, man.
It's been a long time coming, guys.
Appreciate this.
Happy to chat.
Because we could do this another day too if you want. Like we do a part 2 if you want. Okay, so
we're on a roll. I got the studio.
All right. So I love Casey's question here because it's very different. She said, "What is your wife's favorite role that you played?" Now you were married to Jen Araki, correct?
That's right, Jennifer. Yeah, Jen Araki.
She's your partner, but she's also an actress and director as well. So yeah. What would you think she would say her favorite role of yours would be?
So when I first met Jen, she actually had just moved here from Los Angeles.
Okay.
And ended up signing with Carrie, with my agent, and she had done a documentary. So Carrie texted me and said, "Hey, I just signed this new girl. She makes documentaries. I think you guys would really like each other." So I wasn't going to go to this event. I had a ton of stuff to do. I was about to go shoot Letterkenny, but I needed to hand off some paperwork to Carrie. So I texted her and I said, "Hey, I'll probably put this in your mailbox, but if I have time, I'll swing by the bar and say hi real quick." I ended up swinging by the bar thinking I'd be there for 10 minutes. So I parked in like the 20-minute loading zone and came in, and there was one seat sitting next to Jen. And Carrie's like, "That's the girl I was telling you about." So I went and sat down next to her and started chatting. And I didn't know the capacity of the docs that she'd made. She made this doc called "We Got to Get Out of Here," which followed 6 kids through the foster care system in Compton from the ages of 16 to 18. And when you age out in the foster care system, they essentially give you your clothes in a garbage bag and say, "Best of luck."
Oh shit!
And I was like, I asked why people don't vote. Yours is way cooler than mine. So we ended up, I thought my car would get towed for sure because I stayed there till the bar closed and chatted with her. And during that time, a couple people came by and were yelling Letterkenny lines like, "Sick flow, bro. Like, ladies love the flow." She had no idea that I was even
right.
She knew that I was a filmmaker. But in her words, a couple months later, she goes, "I did not know that there were people who lived in Vancouver who could pay their bills with acting. Like, I truly had no idea who you were." She goes, "I thought people were just really friendly and complimenting your hair," which was kind of cool because, she just came at it with a really clean slate of who I was and, what I was up to. And at this point, like, we were about to go film season 6 or 7. Like, we've been doing it for a while. So yeah, we hit it off, and that night I was like, "Hey, I want to see you again." So we went on 3 dates in a row, and then I had to go film Letterkenny, and she was like, "I don't know what this guy's if he's here today, gone tomorrow, if he's coming back." But while I was there, I was like, "Hey, I know this is kind of fast, but I told someone that you're my girlfriend while I was out here. I hope that's okay." And she's like, "Yeah, all right." And we got engaged a year later, and we've been married for we've been together.
You were smitten.
Yeah, very much so. No, she's awesome. She's an incredibly talented filmmaker and really fantastic actress. She was in the Sopranos, I think the final season. She had an episode there. Done several movies and TV shows, lots of commercials, and her directing skills are incredible. I mean, she really runs Meaty Button and Crystal Mountain. She's on set lots. She directs tons of commercials. She recently we produced 2 music videos for Nickelback. San Quentin music video and those days. So yeah, she's really, really talented and really hard worker, and I love her. So I married her.
Attaboy.
Good question.
But to answer your question, I have no idea which one is her favorite. I have absolutely no clue.
Is she a fan of Letterkenny?
She thinks that she's a fan of what Letterkenny has brought in our family, which is a lot of opportunities for other shows. I think the takedown tourney. I'm
right.
I think the takedown tourney episode and all the big city slams might be a little bit.
Or when you and Andrew have herpes, or what was it? No, VD, and it's burning. No, I'm sure she was really proud of that moment.
Or taking the clap pills and whatnot. No, she's great. I'm pretty sure she's aware that it's acting, but.
Very good. Cassie from Simcoe says, this isn't really a question. Just wanted to thank him for playing such a memorable, entertaining role. Letterkenny is a big influence for me to start playing hockey. And obviously his character has a role in that. So thank you for unknowingly inspiring a fan. Cassie from Sudbury. From Simcoe, sorry. Yeah.
Cassie from Simcoe, it's my pleasure. It's the greatest game on earth. I'm glad you're getting into it.
And she's killing it too. Yeah, she's all over the Discord showing us pictures of her pink hockey equipment and all the pre and post.
I think she met you at Fan Expo. I know you met a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure she was there and said hello.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love going to expos and meeting fans. It's there's actually a line in Mr. Hockey where Andrew's character walks by and he sees Gordy signing autographs, and it's like late at night, and he asks him, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, we've got stuff to do. And he goes something to the effect of, we don't get to do what we do without fans. Mm-hmm. And if we don't show appreciation for them, they're not going to come watch. So like, we get a real special opportunity to do what we love and get paid to do it. So you have to appreciate the people who allow that. And that's been my ethos with fans. So when people ever ask me for photos or anything like that, and a lot of times they go, hey, I'm so sorry to bug you. It's like, hey man, I don't have the job that I have without fans. And I'm very aware of that and very appreciative. So I really like taking time to chat with folks. And I think it's an important part of it that I really enjoy.
Yeah. And that shows, I mean, when we met you in Toronto there with Alan, Tanya's daughter there, and I know you and I had some words on Instagram, Dylan, afterwards about this, but that hands down was my favorite moment of that entire day, when how you dealt with their daughter, because it was so genuine. And I could tell, like, you literally, like, we didn't exist. You just honed in on her and had a moment. And I literally turned around to Tanya afterwards. I'm like, that's what Fan Expo is about right there. So I applaud you on that ability to do that. And you made her feel like she was the center of that was the center of the universe right there for her. And it was really special. I'm not even her parent, but I was like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was really good on you, man.
And
thanks,
so
man.
What happened after that photo that you signed for her has went into every single room that she is in. She holds it like it is her treasure. And she is so thrilled to have met you and holds that so deep to her heart for sure. Yeah.
That means the world to me. That's so cool. It's it's wild to think that, the presence with someone can have that impact, can have that effect. And you talk about me being a hockey brat, having to move around so much. I have really vivid core memories of being that age, and it's intimidating to see someone you've seen, whether it's on the ice or on a television screen, and you want to say something, but it's like the words can't come out. And I remember so vividly the hockey players that took the time to connect with you and make you feel comfortable. And it just like stays with you, man. And it doesn't take a ton of energy to give someone a minute of attention. And if you can do that and have a positive impact, I'm like, man, that's like a superpower. Like, that's the coolest feeling in the world. So that's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
So you just answered the question, but I wanted to give Jay a shout out. Jay from Edmonton asks, on multiple occasions I've read or heard about how gracious you are with your fans. Is that something that comes naturally, or is it something you saw in others that you wanted to emulate? And thank you. So you perfectly answered it right there, but I wanted to make sure Jay got a shout out there.
Jay, beauty.
From Edmonton. YYZ Gord from Toronto. He loves your character in Letterkenny and happy that you're that you're on the pod. Somewhat silly question. How did it feel to be made into a Funko Pop? And do you own any?
It was, first of all, it was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I own two, actually. Before there was a Reilly and Jonesy Funko Pop, a fan at, I can't remember which expo it was, and I wish I had their name. I have it written on the bottom of the Funko, but they, you can customize Funkos. You can get custom ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got some.
they had made a custom Reilly Funko.
Yeah.
Was it
that was my
DG
first
Pop Customs? Was it?
It might have been. I think it might have been DJ Pop Customs. You know what? I'll find out and I'll send you guys a message so we can give him a shout out maybe in the credits.
If that's him, he was our sponsor of what, season 2 or 3?
I forget now, but yeah, he made Funko Pops of the four of us too, and yeah, it's so cool.
It's awesome.
That was me.
Like, how cool is that? Like, you're an action figure. That's awesome. And then when they released the Reilly and Jonesy combo pack, I mean, yeah, it's a trip, man. It's like, you're a little kid dreaming about being on TV or having action figures, and then you look at it and it's real. It's happening. It's like, it's a trip. It's a trip.
Jeff from Maine says he saw you in Boston on the Letterkenny live tour, and his favorite part was Mark Forward actively trying to get you and Hersey to break. What was it like working opposite that guy for so many years?
Where do I begin? I mean, one of the most talented, funniest guys, and like a really good person, a really friggin' talented comedian, and very gracious, I don't know.
Just thinking of him makes you laugh.
He honestly, he's so like the dynamic between Coach and Reilly and Jonesy was incredible. And I mean, like, happy accidents, right? Like, that was originally, that role was going to be an actual hockey player. Like, there was talk of, Paul Bissonnette was potentially going to come in. Mm-hmm. There was a couple other retired guys that we were looking at, and then Mark Forward's name came up, and he's just like, he's perfect. He's the perfect coach. He's so funny. And that, like, the improvisation he brought to the show, kicking the garbage can and the boot named Barb and fucking embarrassing, and just like his whole entire energy to those guys was so on point, honestly, to some coaches that I've had in my past. And it's like, it was so funny. There was a bet on tour, $20, because he was breaking me. Like, and I'm like, I pride myself. Like, I'm a professional actor. Like, this is an amateur hour. I should be out there. I should be holding it down. But he loved it. He loved it. And he knew the things that he could do to make me crack. Yeah. And he'd lean into it. And it was $20. I go, $20, you won't break me tonight. And he's like, okay. And sure as shit, like, 3/4 of the way through the show, I'm like, and fuck, Hersey threw me under the bus, because I was like, that wasn't a break. That was not a break. I went down, like, I did a little head shake. Yeah. And he goes, that was a break. You owe him $20. Pay the man. Oh. So I paid him. He takes a Sharpie. He goes, fuck you, Reilly. Shows it to me. Walks over to the toilet. Flushes it down the toilet.
Oh my God.
I'm like, you son of a bitch. He goes, it's the principal. Is that even want the money? I'm like, that's the sense of humor he has. And that's not illegal. That's not destroying money. That
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure depending on what side of the border you're on, he might have committed a crime there.
He might have committed a felony. I apologize. It was paper money. It was Monopoly money.
Right. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Letterkenny money.
Those of you listening at home, exactly. Yeah, Letterkenny money. There's a plug for Letterkenny.
Well, we had him on, and just really quick story. Like, these two things behind me here, both signed by him from the comedy shows they did. Right. But when we had him on, beside his signature on everyone, and there's an 86, and then we were talking to him, and he goes, yeah, I want to hear something funny. He's like, about a handful of those things out there have a 68 on it. I'm like, well, what's the significance of that? He's like, oh, I don't know. He's like, I thought one day if there ever were something, those people with the 68 would be like, I got the good one. Right? So there's no significance of the number other than he just wanted to have that uniqueness.
Just wanted
like
to
the
fuck
golden
with people.
ticket.
Changed it up a bit. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's his humor, man. He's wild, man. He's a funny guy.
Paddle from Rhode Island. I couldn't think of an original question, so I'll ask my stock question. Who are some of your favorite comedians? I'm guessing maybe Mark is one of them, but don't feel pressure.
Yeah. Mark and Keitra both. I mean, I should almost be a fixer, man. When I sit in those audiences, I laugh my ass off. I think they're both friggin' hilarious. Like, I'm a huge fan of I like Rogan's podcast for a bit of the same reason why. We talked about my desire to do comedy, to do documentaries, because I think he's a really curious person, but he's got this, like, toilet humor, sense of humor. Like he gets on stage and he devolves to a 14-year-old boy who's like, "What the fuck is going on? This is hilarious."
Yeah.
And then he can sit down and talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson for 4 hours about like quantum mechanics. And you know, I think he gives a lane for people who he disagrees with and gives them really, you know. Now I'm talking about podcasting. I'll answer your question in a second, but I just like how, you know, I think he's a very intelligent person, and I think he's a really good conversationalist, and then he's also got this like crazy, funny, dirty sense of humor that I love.
Well, there's a reason he's the biggest in the world, right? I mean,
he's good at what he does, and I mean, I think he's you know, he's proven time and time again that he's open to being corrected, and he challenges people, and I think he acknowledges, he's like, I don't know everything, and I'd like to learn more about everything, and I think that's really honorable. But I mean, my brothers and I grew up watching Eddie Murphy. We had what is it? His super famous special where he's in the bright red suit, Delirious. Yeah, so we were young. We were for sure too young to be watching it, but we used to watch a lot of Eddie Murphy, Delirious.
Sure.
Fuck, that was such a good one.
Dane Cook, I kind of, my sense of humor was kind of developing in like peak Dane Cook time. Whenever I'm in LA, shout out to Merv, the best doorman, biggest beauty in the league. If anyone's ever in Los Angeles, swing by the Comedy Store, say hi to my buddy. He's hilarious. Theo Vaughn. I mean, I'm a big fan of comedy. Like that's the number one thing I do when I'm in LA is I like to go and sit and watch comedians. So to boil it down to one would be tough, but I'd say Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan. There you go.
All right, last two questions. Tobias from Missouri wants to know what your dream role would be if you haven't done it already.
Yeah, I mean, Letterkenny was a dream role in the sense that it was a character that I didn't have to ask if I was doing the right thing because I kind of developed it, and then got to live in it for 12 seasons with my best friends, and it led to so many great new opportunities. Honestly, my dream role, I love comedy. I really want to keep doing comedy. I also, and I think I get this from my dad, you know, he's always had a little Stanley Cup statue. He wants to win a Stanley Cup. I want to win an Oscar. I love this career for the fact that you can do it until the day you die. So, you know, I think there'll come a time where I'll find a project or something will present itself that's really challenging that could eventually result in an Oscar win, which is something that I want to do in my lifetime. I'd like to create my own show. I think something that I learned from hockey was my dream for the longest time was to play in the Western League. And then I recognized once I finished my career was that the people who went on and had successful careers wanted to win multiple Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think it's one specific role. I think it's the career that I want to have is my dream. I want to have a diverse career with a lot of different roles. I want to predominantly play funny characters because I love doing them, but I also want to be given the opportunity to sort of break molds and do things that people don't expect, like Descendants, like, you know, the Gordie Howe story, and ideally win an Oscar one day and do it while filming funny movies and TV shows. That you look at Adam Sandler, I mean, the same guy that did Waterboy was in Uncut Gems, and it's like, wow, that's impressive. And I look at someone like that.
He's in some heavy movies. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, to have a career like that is something that I'm gearing for.
All right, one last listener question before I let my co-hosts in with their final questions. Matt from Australia. He wants to know if there are any plans for the Hockey Brothers, so you and Hersey from Letterkenny, to show up on Shoresy one day.
You know, I always say never say never. You never know what could happen. I mean, it's what is it? Life is the longest and shortest thing you'll ever do simultaneously. So, you know, you can, if the opportunity presents itself, I'd be first in line to say yes. I love working with Keith. I know him and I get along really well comedically. I think we both have a lot of the same sense of humor. I understand completely as to why Reilly and Jonesy don't exist in the Shoresy universe right now. You watch those two shows and they're different, right? There's a different pacing. Shoresy's more story driven. Letterkenny was a lot more. There was connective tissue, but it almost played like skits. Like every scene was a bit of a skit, whereas Shoresy has this sort of overarching, character development. If there's an opportunity for Reilly and Jonesy to fit in and it makes sense, 100% I'd be there. If that opportunity does not come up, I'm not gonna, I'm not pissed about it. I think he and I will work together again.
Yeah,
someday along the road. And
Kiso seems to have a knack for bringing his friends back on his project. So I can see that happening. I always thought if there was going to be a crossover between the two shows, that they would do it. Like if Wayne ever showed up on Shoresy, you would see only the back of him. So in the Shoresy world, you wouldn't see Wayne's face. So maybe, maybe two hockey players showed up, but you don't see their face, but you hear their voices, and one's blonde and one's a brunette. And
right. You see the back of their jerseys, Reilly and Jonesy, or something like that.
So, season 12 was not that long ago, like in terms of when it came out. I know you guys shot it like now a couple of years ago, but when you found out that was going to be the last season, how did you feel?
Yeah, man, it's like, it's bittersweet. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I mean, anytime something that you love comes to an end, it's like the Green Day song "Closing Time." It's like, oh, there's that nostalgia. But I don't know, man. It was like watching the final season, seeing how it all wrapped up. I think it was a really, really solid send off. I love the way it wrapped up for a bunch of different reasons. One, it wasn't finite in the sense that like no one got blown up. No one drove off a cliff in a blaze of glory. There's lines within the show that says, they sort of allude to this sense of it's not over. It's changing, and people felt stuck, and people think they might go, and there's this sense of like everyone's going to go their own direction, and then they end up all going to the Egg Hall to have this party together. So, was I sad? For sure. I mean, anyone would be. It's like getting traded off of a team that you've had success with for many, many years, and you find out that you're not going to be going to summer camp next year.
Yeah.
But I also look at, what that show gave me. I mean, man, I was an unknown Canadian actor who, if I didn't book a job every, 2 months, like I was going to go work at a bar. And Letterkenny gave me the opportunity to, make a mark in the film industry to the point where I didn't audition for Mighty Ducks. I was given that opportunity, and I went on a live tour around North America, and we sold out like the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, and walked down the street in many cities, and people recognized me for this character that I played. So I really can't look back on it with anything but appreciation and gratitude. And when it ended, because we were told it was going to end, and then we went and shot the final season, my mantra was, I will not be the guy who 10 years from now is remembered as, weren't you that guy on Letterkenny? Like, that is one of the most like proud things that I've done in my career. But I will do everything in my power to ensure that it's a springboard onto the next thing. And, I think in doing that, you honor the show, but you also, what's the saying? You can't drive forward looking in the rearview mirror. That's why the windshield's so much bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was surreal. It was crazy. It was nuts. I mean, I think I speak for everyone when I say we would have done it forever if the opportunity presented itself. But then you also have to think of the fans and think of like a story that wraps itself up in a bow and delivers really quality content for that many episodes. Like, I think Jared's worst fear would be doing a season or one episode beyond the point where he felt his vision wasn't being brought to life. And as someone who's now running his own production company and creating my own stories and pitching TV shows and pitching movies, like, I get that, man. Like, you are dealing with a lot there's a lot of things on a showrunner's plate, and one of them is how does this end? How does this start? How does the middle look? And how does it end? And I don't think those are ever easy decisions to make. And I don't envy him, because not only was he he's our friend, but he's also, the showrunner. It's like he's creating these stories. So, it's not an easy spot to be in. But man, am I glad that happened. And I'm very happy to say that my relationship with everyone, the producers, the actors, the crew, even I was talking to Charlie Collin, one of our drivers, literally yesterday. We were FaceTiming and catching up. So, I've stayed very close to all of them, and I'm really proud of that. And I look forward to creating more stuff with all of them. I think they're all incredibly talented, and I'm sure that more fun stuff is coming down the pipe.
Tan, do you have any questions?
Dylan, you are such a good guy. Thank you so much. Your stories, your how you shared everything with us. I'm going to listen back to this and clip so many parts, because you are so well spoken and so insightful. And I can't wait to see what you come out with next. It's truly been a pleasure speaking with you. I do have a question. I would like to know how easy or difficult is it to come in and out of character? Like, do you ever have dinner with Andrew and like fall into Reilly and Jonesy? Like, I know in our daily conversation or weekly conversation, there will definitely be a Letterkenny reference. Like, I can't say sandwiches anymore. We're having sandos. We're crushing sandos. Like, do you find that slips into your day to day, or are you very good with separating the two?
I mean, 100% it comes in to my day to day. I mean, right. I get bugged all the time by the cast that like the most Reilly, like I'm most like my character in the sense of I think my attitude and speech patterns and things like that. But it's funny. Like, I'm not a method actor by any stretch of the imagination. However, I will say, whenever I'm on a film set or a TV show, I really do sink into, like, offset the tonality and the pacing of the speech. And I think it's twofold. One, it's like if you're around a group of friends, like you hear about people who move to Australia or England and they're there for 4 years and they come back and they got a bit of an accent. It's like you start to speak and that's what being, human is. You hear. And your brain just kind of wants to fit in, and you start to replicate those speech patterns. And with the cast, I mean, that comes in 100%. Even when I'm around hockey guys, I have a slightly different cadence of speech. When I go back home to Fort St. James, I have a different cadence of speech. When I'm, pitching to a network and I have to be, prim and proper, I'm not going to drop a wheel sight Sally if I'm talking to some suit, right? And I think that. I think that really comes from how much I actually did move as a kid. Like I was in very different places. I was in the Midwest. I was on the East Coast. I was in Calgary, which is basically the Texas of Canada. And I was on the West Coast. And like, you kind of, you figure out how to fit in even in the cadence of your speech. So that's a long-winded way of saying when Andrew and I get together, we finish each other's sentences, and sometimes the fist bumps and the furdas come out, and we have no control over it.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Matt, you got anything?
Actually, so normally I ask, so first off, thank you. This was unbelievable, man. You, like Tanya said it about, you were a well-spoken, incredible person. I love the stories and the articulation, everything you've done. And honestly, can't wish you nothing but success. Like, I wish you nothing but success on everything you do, man. I see big things for you. Normally this time I ask a question around what it's all meant to you, but I think you've answered that about 100 times over in different ways. So I won't have you do that. But what I'm going to do is actually, I want to take a selfish moment here for myself. So I think it's safe to say you're an athlete. I, for those who know me, am not much of an athlete, but this weekend I'm doing a Tough Mudder. Which I've never done, which I don't know if you know, it's an endurance event, big run, lots of obstacles. I'm getting ready. I need you to put your coaching hat on for a second and tap in and give me a couple lines of advice here so that I don't fuck it up and I deliver on Sunday. So I'm gonna flip it over to you, please.
But here's the deal: you're gonna dig deep, bear down, and you're gonna wheel snipe and Sally. And there's no skipping leg day on this one, Palsky. And here's the deal: the human body can go through a hell of a lot more than you think it can. The mind is strong, and it's all between these two goddamn things. So just when you think it's so tough, you got to quit. Guess what? Don't quit. Keep going. Grind hard. Stay hard. Let's fucking go, bro. You're going to get this. You're going to do this, baby.
Yeah.
Fucking right.
I love
Yes,
it.
buddy.
Amazing.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I got a little marble mouth in the middle, but you know what? That's all right. That was natural. That was off the dome, bro.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's great, man. Wow.
That was what I needed. All right, I'm ready, man. Thank
Impressive.
you. You're a beauty, bud.
You're a beauty.
Final couple of questions just for me. Is there anything you're working on right now? Any projects coming up, either you or Jen, that you want to, shed some light on? We're here to amplify you guys. So whenever there's something you want to release or promote, please let us know, because we'd love to do that for you guys.
I appreciate that very much. I'm about to go shoot a movie in Winnipeg, actually, in October. I'm really stoked about it. I don't think I'm technically allowed to say anything, but I wish I could, because I'm so pumped. It's going to be with a really, really funny comedian and some really, really talented folks. Lots of them from LA, but
and they're going to Winnipeg in October. Wow,
they're going to Winnipeg in October. Yeah. So I'm going to be on that film.
Hopefully, you're out before the snow flies.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. October 15th is when I'm getting out there. So I'm pumped on that. It's with someone who I've wanted to work with for my whole life, and I should have texted and asked if I could say they're, I mean, I don't know why they're all NDA, like no disclosure, don't say anything. Like, what am I going to, like,
no one's listening. But anyway, it's okay.
I know, right?
But just us girls.
When it does come out, let us know, and we'll definitely shout it from the mountaintops.
I will for sure let you know. And I got a couple things in the works with some folks that are really funny. I've really zeroed in on some comedy stuff. So hopefully we start in production this spring on that in the summer. And the minute I know I'm allowed to start pumping it, I'll hit you guys up, because I appreciate everything you guys do, and you've really expanded the reach of the show and what you've been able to do with Shorzy. And like you said, you celebrate so much more than just the Letterkenny universe. So thank you guys for being awesome. I listen to your stuff, and I'm pumped to finally get here in the flesh. Well, in the flesh. Yeah. I can see you guys.
I just want to give like a really quick rundown, because you reached out a couple of years ago maybe and said, all right, let's do it. I'm ready to come on. And then I got an email from you saying, I can't come on right now. You'll know why soon enough. And that's when we all we didn't find out at that time, but I did the math, and I'm like, oh, that must have been when he found out about season 12.
I emailed you about going on the podcast, and I think it was within like that day or the next day. We got the news, and I truthfully, I just didn't know what was happening, and I needed to get the lay of the land.
Sure.
And,
no, we understand.
And the land has been laid, and I know, obviously, we all know what went down, but no, I'm glad we were able to sync up and circle back, and now
Yeah, where can folks follow you online? Where can folks find you online?
On Instagram, I'm Dylan Playfair 1. Dylan Playfair 1 on Twitter as well. That's because I have Dylan Playfair on both the platforms. However, I lost the password back in 2000, which is hilarious.
Isn't it just Ferda with the number 3 as an E? Come on.
It should be. So yeah,
the password.
Dylan Playfair 1. No, it's hilarious. Like the Instagram and the Twitter, X now, I guess, they're just like two dead old accounts that are like with like 3 photos of like my dog or something. But anyway, yeah, Dylan Playfair 1. Check out Crystal Mountain Films if you want to see some of the stuff we're producing and working on. We're super proud of that company. That's crystalmountainfilms.com and mediabutton.com. We've got some really exciting content on there that we're producing, and Jen's behind most of that. But
I was on that site the other day, and it looks great. Yeah, it looks like you guys are doing some really fun work there.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, we asked for an hour. We took 90 minutes, and so we're so appreciative of that. Thank you so much for coming on today, and hopefully we'll have you back. When you have something to talk about, promote, and So yeah,
Or just catch up sometime with a beer.
Or catch up. Yeah, that'd be great.
I know, Thirsty Thursday, and I don't even have a brewski. Yeah, I'll hold you guys through it. We'll circle up after the unnamed movie comes out. Maybe we can chat about that. I think it's going to be lots of fun.
Sounds good. I'm going to play us off here with Tanya's favorite song, You're a Man by Joe G. And that's all we have for this episode. If you'd like to support the podcast, please tell a friend. Also follow us on most social media outlets at ProtestanPod. Thanks for joining us. Now we're going to hang out with our new buddy Dylan. On behalf of Dylan, Tanya, Matt, and Victor and myself, thank you for listening and have a great week.
Have you ever loved? Would you go again? Don't be down when it's over, babe.